now being joined by Arise analyst and human rights lawyer Frank Tietie to review some of the developing stories in the Nigerian space. First is President Tinubu, asking the Nigeria Customs Service to return seized smuggled goods that are being taken outside the country to their owners and ensure that they sell to the people, to ameliorate the food crisis in the country. Good move?
Well, that comes with, as a very refreshing news, and it's such a big news. If you only know the implication of what those persons who are attempting to smuggle food items from Nigeria, if you know the criminal implications, the criminal dimension of what they've done, you will appreciate greatly what the president has done. Now, first, the president, oftentimes we forget that he's also the head of state, the Nigerian head of state, and he has immense powers to actually pardon all forms of offenses, including treason or for offenses such as murder, whatever offense. So the president does have the power. But see, what the president is trying to do is to be as responsive as possible. Not too long, he suspended the employment expatriate levy. It shows that the president is trying to really ameliorate the situation. He's listening. But you see, in this particular case, why is it now that Customs is registering seizure of food items, which means it's been going on for a long time, whereas under the Export Prohibition Act, you can't export agricultural items like maize, beans, and cassava and the rest.
And they are raw states.
And if you do that, actually, upon conviction is life imprisonment. So if you see, and every vehicle and the goods that are being conveyed are actually forfeited to the federal government. So if the president decides to say, look, he's not only forgiving them, he's giving them back their trucks, he's giving them back their food items, just go and sell to the Nigerian people. We haven't experienced such kind of magnanimity from a Nigerian president for a very long time. And that shows you how he takes the issue of food security. And this comes as a very refreshing news indeed. And to think that several other moves have been made credited to the presidency, one which is, as far as I'm concerned, very revolutionary. One of the presidential aides recently, and I read in The Guardian, saying that the president is ready to subsidize food, farm inputs to the tune of 97%. That's unprecedented. Meaning that if you are a farmer in Nigeria and you want anything to impute in terms of like fertilizers or seeds, which are hardly, which means the president has ordered that you can get, he's going to pay 97% of it while you pay just 7%. I think this is the time for people like who are working in the banks to resign and go into a farm. Now that the president is ready to pay 97%.
Are you sure you're not going to try your hands on that?
I don't know anything.
But let's look at these amelioration of the food crisis in Nigeria and poverty alleviation, particularly as it concerns the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, whose core mandate is to help reduce poverty, particularly the register for 20 million Nigerians now. That's the cash distribution. Is this not a key period for Mr. President to quickly constitute, a board for that ministry, appoint maybe a national coordinator and the rest, and galvanize, the resources needed to help?
Agreed. In fact, talking about humanitarian ministry, that reminds me, prior to my last my last comment here, where I took a swipe at the permanent secretary, my findings and showed that the man actually had a clean bill. That's the reason why he wasn't suspended. After all, he was just in the ministry for only 3 weeks and nothing of sort came to his knowledge, more especially when the funds we're talking about being associated with better do expenditure were actually not directly related to the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, but being funds in the agency, in the covers of the agency or the ministry. And again, the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry holds a very important role here. And one would have thought the president would have extended that when cash, conditional cash transfers or direct cash transfers are made to these registered indigent Nigerians, they should actually make those purchases directly from these, these goods that he has actually released from the customs guard. A good example is that of the governor of Katsina State. I read it also in the news report that he's earmarked about 10 billion naira to subsidize the purchase of grains for feeding during the Ramadan period. So we will see this concerted effort by governments across board, whether at the national or subnational level, working towards actually stemming this horrible tide of food insecurity facing this country at this time. Now, but again, I would have wanted to interrogate the idea of the intervention of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. I think it's a game changer. I think sometimes we should give credit to whom it is due. The EFCC actually, as a matter of fact, seized over 21 trucks of, food-laden trucks that were being exported out of the country through the borders, and actually indicted the customs service. So I believe that when you see that kind of interagency, not rivalry, but competition to obey the president in the interest of Nigerian people, you actually have
it can cause some conflagration.
No, it may not. Because in this case, it has benefited the Nigerian people. Okay. Here you are. Customs indicting the Nigerian Customs, the EFCC indicting Nigerian Customs Service for some of its officials for collecting bribe for allowing certain imports and exports illegally, and then EFCC proceeding to tackling a national economic sabotage by going to the borders to actually seize trucks that were carrying food items out of the country. And before you know it, the Nigerian Customs Service stepped up, and here we are, President is saying, intervening to say, okay, forgive everybody and let sleeping dogs lie. I think that is something we must commend the EFCC for that intervention, because right now we are commending the president, yes, but the EFCC also did a lot of work to push the customs to do its work.
Let's quickly look at the Nigerian security situation, where the defense spokesman, Major General Buba, just told us that the IPOB Supreme Headquarters, 20 of their fighters and control and operational councils in Olu, Imo State was brought down, and 20 of their men killed and the rest.
Well, sometimes it gratifies the ordinary citizen when he knows that the state forces are on top of the situation and that they are able to neutralize forces that want to destabilize the polity. But what is this? What we should expect is that after this kind of clearing operation, there should be some measure of peace and control in that area. Southeast has been unnecessarily bedeviled with this trouble. So when you see this kind of report coming in, the expectation is that there should be peace for a long time in the Southeast, and not still finding that there are other cells across the Southeast terrorizing the people and making it look as if government has limits in this way it carries out its influence.
And not so for the Northwest, where the governor of Sokoto, is asking President Bola Tinubu to join hands with them in assuaging the security situations in the Northwest by forming the Sokoto Security Corps Guards.
I think we're actually witnessing tremendous progress in the way state authorities, I'm talking about state governments,
is the beginning of
taking
community policing?
No, state policing. I think it's taking too long. The president was actually, as governor of Lagos State, was actually the one who proposed and strongly moved for the establishment of state police. So it's not going to be a difficult thing to predict that the president is going to fully support the emergence of and establishment of state police. But somehow, for watchers, it's taking too long. The governor shouldn't really appeal that strongly to the president before he takes action. But we're happy that there is a bill before the National Assembly now for actually amending the constitution for Nigeria to have state police. And then you will see governors like this, stepping up in their responsibility to ensure that, they take direct control of securing the people that gave them political power. There is nothing as frustrating to a governor that he has his persons, the people who gave him power, and he cannot organize security to protect them. Nothing as bad as that. And when you see this kind of development coming up in Sokoto State, they don't need to appeal to the president. The president is already positioned and postured to supporting state police.
Very quickly, let's go to the National Assembly now, where Senator Ningi has stirred the honest nest, among his colleagues, to say that the country is operating, or President Tinubu is operating two budgets and the rest.
I guess Senator Ningi is in big trouble. You don't do that to members of the Senate. There's one kind of camaraderie that exists among them, and when you break it, it appears to be unforgivable. I doubt if he would survive the hammer that will rest on him on Tuesday when he's questioned. And it turned out that even if there
wouldn't he be blaming it on the media that he's been misquoted?
It would be very difficult because the Senate president and many of the senators don't understand the Hausa language. So it is the senators who understand the Hausa language that actually are indicting him. And in this case, it's going to be a very terrible embarrassment. In fact,
but what kind of what political gain would that really do for him? How possible is it to operate two budgets?
It's not a possibility. It's not a possibility. However, it is populist thinking. You know, somehow politicians, especially in northern Nigeria, you know, seem to make such statements that appeal to the masses and that actually endear them in such a way. But this one, I think, on the part of Senator Ningi, has gone too far. It's a huge national embarrassment. You know, budget padding, especially, is a criminal offense.
He has shot himself in the foot.
It's difficult. I wonder how he's going to wriggle out of it.
All right, thank you so very much, Frank Tietie, a RISE analyst and human rights lawyer, for shedding light on this new development.